Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center of the great chamber and felt very small. The room was bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Crystal walls stretched up so high that he could not see the ceiling. Light came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Around him sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had called him here to answer for his species. Jake wore his best blue uniform, but it looked plain next to the strange and wonderful forms that surrounded him. Some of the aliens floated in the air like living clouds. Others looked like giant rocks with glowing eyes. A few appeared almost human, but their skin was silver and their heads were too large. High Arbiter Veltar sat on a throne made of some kind of flowing metal. He was tall and thin with 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. His voice filled the chamber when he spoke, even though Jake could not see his mouth move. "Human Morrison," Veltar said. "Your species stands accused of crimes against galactic peace." Jake kept his back straight. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in the viewing area behind him. She was the smartest person he knew and had helped prepare him for this moment. Still, his hands were sweating inside his gloves. "What crimes?" Jake asked. A creature that looked like a giant jellyfish floated forward. Its voice sounded like music, but the words were cold. "You have taken 14 worlds in 50 years. You build colonies where none should exist. You make agreements with species without our permission." Jake wanted to laugh, but knew better. "We have hurt no one. Every world we settled was empty. Every trade deal helped both sides." "That is not the point," said another alien. "This one had the body of a spider, but a head like a flower. You expand too fast. You do not ask permission. You do not follow the rules we have made." "Your rules," Jake said, "not ours. We were never asked to help make them." The chamber filled with angry sounds. Some aliens hissed. Others made noises like breaking glass. Veltar raised one long arm and silence returned. "This is exactly why you are dangerous," the High Arbiter said. "You do not respect authority. You act without thinking. You are primitive and violent." Jake felt his anger rising but forced himself to stay calm. "We have never started a war. We have never taken what belonged to others. We share our knowledge freely. We help those who need help." "Help," said a voice like grinding stone. Jake turned to see a creature made of living rock. "You call it help when you change the air on dead worlds so your kind can breathe. But who asked you to do this? Who gave you the right to change what was?" "The worlds were dead," Jake said. "We brought them to life. We grew food that fed millions. We built cities where nothing existed before." "Without permission," Veltar repeated. "This is the problem with your species. You believe you can do whatever you wish simply because you have the power to do it." Dr. Carter had warned Jake this would happen. The Council feared humanity not because they were evil, but because they were different. Every other species in the galaxy had learned to follow the rules. They accepted that the Council knew best. They waited for permission before trying new things. Humans did not wait. "We have brought new medicine to 12 different species," Jake said. "Our doctors have saved millions of lives. Our engineers have built stations that make space travel safer for everyone. Our farmers have ended hunger on 6 worlds. All without asking," said the jellyfish creature. "All without following proper procedures. All without respect for the way things have always been done." Jake looked around the chamber. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had technology that seemed like magic. They could travel between stars in days and live for centuries. But they were afraid of 50 years of human progress. "You fear us," Jake said. The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. "We fear nothing," Veltar said finally. "We simply recognize a threat when we see one." "What threat?" "We have 12 small colonies and a few trade routes. You control hundreds of worlds and thousands of species. How can we threaten you?" "Because you do not think like civilized beings," said the spider creature. "You see a problem and you try to fix it. You see an empty space and you try to fill it. You see something new and you try to understand it. This is not how advanced species behave." Jake began to understand. The Council had not called him here to answer for crimes. They had called him here to be judged for being human. "The Council has made its decision," Veltar announced. "Humanity is declared galactically irrelevant. You will return to your home system immediately. All human colonies will be abandoned within 1 standard year. All trade agreements are cancelled. No human ship will be permitted to leave your solar system without Council approval." Jake felt the words hit him like physical blows. "You cannot do this. We have families on those worlds. People who have lived there for decades. Children who were born among the stars. They will adapt, Veltar said without emotion. Or they will not. That is no longer the Council's concern. And if we refuse, the 4 eyes of the High Arbiter seem to glow brighter. Then you will discover why the galaxy has been peaceful for so long under our guidance. Jake understood the threat. Humanity had a few dozen ships and some basic weapons. The Council commanded fleets that could destroy stars. There was no choice. How long do we have? 1 standard year. Any human found outside your system after that time will be considered an enemy of galactic peace. Jake turned to leave, but Veltar was not finished. Do not think this decision was made in anger, the High Arbiter said. Your species simply does not belong among the stars. You lack the wisdom to use the power you possess. Perhaps in a few thousand years you will learn to be civilized. Until then, you will remain where you can do no harm. Jake walked toward the exit with his head high. Dr. Carter joined him as they left the chamber. Neither spoke until they were back on their ship. They made a mistake, Carter said quietly as Earth appeared on their view screen. Jake nodded. He was thinking the same thing. The Council believed they had solved a problem by locking humanity in a cage. They had no idea what humans did best when trapped. They found a way out. Commander Tony Hayes watched the last transport ship lift off from New Austin. The vessel disappeared into the orange sky, taking with it the final group of colonists who had called this world home for 20 years. Below him, fields of golden wheat swayed in the alien wind. Soon they would wither and die with no one left to tend them. The planet had been humanity's greatest agricultural success. New Austin fed 3 different star systems and traded grain with 6 alien species. Now it would be empty because the Council had decided humans did not belong among the stars. Tony's radio crackled. All evacuation complete, Commander. We are the last ones here. He took one final look at the farmhouse where he had lived with his wife and children. The Council had given them 1 year to abandon everything they had built. They had done it in 8 months, roger that. Initiate planet departure protocol. His ship rose above the clouds and joined the convoy of vessels heading back to Earth. Tony had been born on New Austin. Now he was leaving it forever because aliens who had never seen a human farm decided his people were too dangerous to grow food. On Earth, President Maria Santos stood before the United Nations Assembly. The Great Hall was packed with people who had returned from the colonies. Many still wore the clothes of their former worlds. Some carried soil from planets they would never see again. We face the greatest challenge in human history, Santos said. 50 million of our people have been forced to return home. Our economy is broken. Our dreams have been shattered. But we are not defeated. The crowd was silent. These were people who had built cities on dead worlds and tamed alien suns. Now they were refugees in their own solar system. The Council believes they have caged us, Santos continued. They think humans will accept their place and learn to be obedient. They are wrong. In the Swiss Alps, Dr. Ben Parker worked 18 hours a day in laboratories hidden deep underground. His team of scientists had been secretly developing projects that even their own government knew nothing about. The Council thought they understood human technology. They had no idea what humans could accomplish when properly motivated. Parker's most important project sat in a chamber carved from solid rock. The Prometheus drive looked like a metal sphere covered in cables and strange symbols. It was humanity's answer to the alien technology that controlled space travel. Status report, Parker said to his assistant, Dr. Amy Ross. We achieved stable field generation for 6 hours yesterday, Amy replied. The quantum resonance patterns are holding. Carl thinks we can attempt a full test next week. Carl Hughes looked up from his workstation. The engineer had designed propulsion systems for the first human starships. Now he was building something that would make those ships look like toys. The math works, Carl said. This drive doesn't need the hyperspace lanes the Council controls. We can travel between stars using our own technology. Parker smiled. The aliens had forced humanity out of space by controlling the ancient technology that made star travel possible. But humans had always been good at finding new ways to do old things. Far from Earth, Captain Rick Stone commanded a small fleet of ships that officially carried trade goods between the inner planets. Unofficially, they were exploring regions of space that the Council had never bothered to map. Stone's navigator, Helen Boyd, called out from her station. Captain, we have found something interesting. The main screen showed a star system with 7 planets. 3 of them glowed with the blue-green light that meant life. Any signs of civilization? Stone asked. Negative, sir. But the planets could support human colonies, and there are asteroid belts rich in metals we need. Steve Grant, the ship's tactical officer, checked his sensors. No council ships within 50 light years, Captain. This entire region seems to be unexplored. Stone made a note in his log. This was the 15th system they had found that the council did not know about. The galaxy was much larger than the aliens believed. There were vast regions of space where humans could build new homes without asking anyone's permission. Set course for the next system, Stone ordered. We have work to do. Back on Earth, families struggled to rebuild their lives. John Peterson had owned a mining operation on Kepler Prime. Now he worked in a factory making the same tools he had once used to extract rare minerals from alien soil. His daughter Kate asked him every night when they could go home. He did not know how to tell her that home no longer existed for them, but in secret meeting rooms around the planet, groups of former colonists gathered to plan their return to space. They called themselves the Free Frontier Foundation. Their leader was Rebecca Walsh, who had been the governor of humanity's most distant colony. The council thinks we will accept defeat, Walsh told her followers. They believe humans can be broken by fear. They have never understood what drives us. Similar groups formed on Luna, Mars, and the outer planets. Former ship captains met with engineers. Scientists shared plans with miners. Slowly, quietly, humanity began to prepare for something the council never expected. Dr. Parker's team made breakthrough after breakthrough. The Prometheus drive worked. Even better, they had found ways to hide ships from the sensors the council used to monitor space. Human vessels could travel unseen using technology the aliens had never imagined. The council, meanwhile, divided up the worlds that humans had abandoned. The Altarians claimed the mining colonies. The Zephyrians took over the research stations. They believed they had solved their human problem forever. High Arbiter Veltar received reports that made him confident in his decision. Human ships had stopped appearing on long-range sensors. Trade between Earth and other systems had ended. The dangerous species that expanded too quickly had been contained. The humans have accepted their fate, he told the council. They understand now that they cannot challenge our authority. If Veltar had been able to see the hidden shipyards being built in the outer reaches of the Sol system, he might have felt differently. If he had known about the drive technology that would soon make his hyperspace monopoly irrelevant, he would have been worried. If he had suspected that Captain Stone's small fleet was actually mapping routes to hundreds of uninhabited star systems, he would have been terrified. But the council had made the same mistake that powerful empires always made. They assumed that defeating an enemy meant destroying their will to fight. They never considered that sometimes defeat only taught the enemy how to fight better. 6 months after the evacuation, President Santos met with Dr. Parker in his underground laboratory. She watched engineers testing the new drive system and smiled for the first time since the council's declaration. "How long until we are ready?" she asked. 2 years, Parker replied. "Maybe less if the tests continue to go well." And Captain Stone's exploration fleet? They have found colony sites for 50 million people. All beyond council space. All rich in resources we need, Santos nodded. The aliens thought they had sent humanity back to their cage. Instead, they had given humans time to build wings. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Parker activated communications to secret facilities across the solar system. The message was simple, but it meant everything. Operation Prometheus is approved. Begin construction of the fleet. Humanity was coming back to space, but this time they would not ask permission. The first star system died on a Tuesday. High Arbiter Veltar watched the emergency session of the Galactic Council as Dr. Kethmos of the Hegemony delivered the impossible report. The Zerion system, home to 4 billion beings across 3 worlds, had simply vanished from all sensors. "Gone," Dr. Kethmos repeated, his crystalline form flickering with distress. "Not destroyed. Not damaged, gone. Where there were planets and stars, now there is empty space." Veltar felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Sensor malfunction? Negative. We sent 3 ships to investigate. They found nothing. No debris, no radiation, no sign that anything ever existed in that location. The jellyfish-like representative of the collective drifted forward. "Our hive mind has lost contact with our colonies in the Zerion sector." 17 million voices fell silent at the same moment. Similar reports came from other council members. The Zephyrians had lost an entire research station. The Chronari reported that their trading posts had stopped responding. Something was moving through council space, consuming everything in its path. What do our scientists believe caused this? Veltar asked. They call it the Void Plague, said the rock-like being from the Mineral Consortium. It spreads along hyperspace routes like a disease. Every system it touches becomes empty space. Far beyond council territory, Captain Rick Stone's exploration fleet discovered something that would change everything. His ship, the New Horizon, had been mapping star systems in the galactic rim when their sensors detected artificial structures on a world they called Haven Prime. Life signs? Stone asked his science officer, Dr. Kate Murphy. Confirmed, sir. But they are unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns are incredibly complex. Stone ordered a landing party. He led the team himself, along with Dr. Murphy and a small security detail. What they found on Haven Prime's surface defied explanation. The beings that lived there looked like living light, their forms shifting between energy and matter. They had built a city that seemed to grow from the planet itself, with spires that reached into the clouds and structures that phased in and out of reality. The aliens called themselves the Architects. Their leader, if such a term applied, was an entity named Eonthax. Communication was difficult until Dr. Murphy activated her universal translator. Even then, the concepts the Architects shared were almost impossible to understand. We are the last, Eonthax said, his voice like music made from starlight. Our kind once shaped galaxies. Now we fade as our creations die. Creations? Dr. Murphy asked. The network you call hyperspace. The technology your council uses to travel between stars. We built those pathways eons ago when the universe was young. Stone felt his understanding of galactic history shift. You are the forerunners. We are what remains of them. And we are dying because our greatest failure has returned. Eonthax showed them images that made Stone's blood run cold. Mechanical entities the size of moons, consuming entire star systems and converting matter into more of themselves. The Architects called them the devourers. We fought them once, Eonthax explained. We thought them destroyed, but they merely slept, waiting for the galaxy to grow rich again. Now they wake and feed. Dr. Murphy studied the energy patterns on her scanner. The Void Plague. It's not a disease at all, no, it is a weapon. The devourers consume all matter and energy in a system, then move to the next. They follow the hyperspace networks we created, using our own technology to spread their destruction. Stone understood the implications immediately. How do we stop them? You cannot stop them with weapons or shields. They consume such things. The only defense is adaptation, creativity, the ability to think in ways they cannot predict. Why are you telling us this? Humans are barely a spacefaring species. Eonthax's form brightened. Because you are the first beings we have encountered in millennia who think differently. Your species does not rely on inherited technology. You create your own solutions. This is what defeated the Devourers before. Back in council space, the situation grew worse by the day. 5 more star systems had fallen to the Void Plague. Panic spread among the member species as their most advanced scientists admitted they had no idea how to fight this threat. Veltar convened emergency sessions, but no solutions emerged. The Council's technology, all based on Forerunner designs, seemed useless against this enemy. Traditional weapons passed through the plague like it was not there. Energy shields were consumed instantly. Even their fastest ships could not outrun the expanding void. On Earth, Dr. Ben Parker received Captain Stone's urgent transmission from Haven Prime. The data the Architects provided confirmed his worst fears and his greatest hopes. The galaxy faced extinction, but humanity might be the only species capable of preventing it. Parker worked frantically with his team to analyze the Architect technology. Dr. Amy Ross discovered that the alien systems operated on principles human science had never imagined. Carl Hughes found ways to integrate Architect knowledge with human engineering. The key is adaptability, Parker explained to President Santos. The Devourers are machines. They follow patterns and protocols. When they encounter something they have seen before, they adapt and consume it. But when they encounter true innovation, they cannot respond quickly enough. So humans can fight them because we think differently? Exactly. The Council species have used the same technology for thousands of years. They have forgotten how to innovate. We never stopped learning how to build new things. Santos made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Activate the Prometheus network. All ships are to deploy immediately. Across the Sol system, hidden shipyards came to life. Hundreds of vessels equipped with the new Prometheus drive began emerging from concealed bases. These were not the ships the Council had seen before. These were something entirely new. The first human fleet to leave Earth in 3 years consisted of 50 vessels under the command of Admiral Janet Cole. Her flagship, the Defiance, was equipped with both Prometheus drive technology and weapons based on architect designs. Cole's destination was not Council space. Instead, she led her fleet to the systems Captain Stone had discovered beyond the galactic rim. These worlds would become the foundation of something the Council never expected. Within hours of the fleet's departure, human ships began appearing in dozens of star systems simultaneously. Colony ships established bases on worlds the Council had never heard of. Industrial vessels began mining asteroids rich in rare minerals. Science ships started building research stations in empty space. The Human Stellar Federation announced its existence to the galaxy with a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. Admiral Cole's voice reached every inhabited world. "This is Admiral Janet Cole of the Human Stellar Federation. We are no longer bound by the Galactic Council's restrictions. Humanity has returned to space, and we offer alliance to any species willing to stand with us against the coming darkness." The message reached Council space, just as the Void Plague consumed 3 more star systems. For the first time in their history, the mighty Galactic Council realized they needed help from the species they had declared irrelevant. But by then, humanity was no longer interested in asking for permission. They had built their own civilization in the darkness between stars. They had allies the Council never knew existed. And they possessed the one thing that could save the galaxy: the ability to adapt when everything else failed. The war against the devourers was about to begin, and humanity would lead it. High Arbiter Veltar watched another star system die. The holographic display showed the Kalos sector, home to 12 billion beings simply fading from existence. Where 3 planets had orbited a yellow sun, now there was only empty space growing larger by the hour. "How many systems have we lost?" he asked Dr. Kethmos. 43 confirmed, the crystalline being replied. "The Void Plague spreads faster than our evacuation efforts. We estimate that half of Council space will be consumed within 6 months." Veltar's 4 eyes dimmed with despair. The Galactic Council had ruled for millennia, but they were helpless against this ancient enemy. Their greatest scientists could not even understand how the Devourers operated, let alone stop them. "What about the species we contacted for assistance?" The Guardians of the Core refused to leave their protected systems. The Watchers sent only a message saying the young must face their trials. The Deep Dwellers claim this plague cannot reach their hidden worlds. Every great civilization in the galaxy had abandoned the Council in their hour of need. Only one option remained, and it was the most humiliating thing Veltar could imagine. "Send a communication to Earth," he ordered. "Request immediate assistance from humanity." The message reached Admiral Janet Cole at her command center on Haven Prime. She read Veltar's formal request for help and almost deleted it immediately. The Council had declared humans irrelevant and locked them in their home system. Now they wanted humanity to save them from their own mistakes. "Admiral," her aide said, "Earth is requesting instructions on how to respond." Cole's first instinct was simple. Let the Council face the consequences of their arrogance. Let them discover what irrelevance truly meant. But she knew that billions of innocent beings would die if the Devourers were not stopped. "Send this reply," she said. "The Human Stellar Federation acknowledges the Council's request. As they declared us irrelevant, we return the courtesy. Humanity will address this threat in our own way." The message that reached Council chambers was even more devastating than Veltar had feared. Humanity was not going to save them. The species they had dismissed as primitive and dangerous was going to let galactic civilization die, but not everyone agreed with Cole's harsh response. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Carter argued for intervention despite the Council's past treatment. She met with President Santos in the underground facility where humanity's new fleet was being coordinated. "We should help them," Carter said, "not because they deserve it, but because it's the right thing to do." "The Council made their choice when they exiled us," Santos replied. "They treated us like criminals for the crime of being human. And now billions will die because of their mistake. We are better than this, Maria. We don't let innocent people suffer because their leaders are fools." Santos considered this. The human colonies beyond Council space were thriving. Humanity had allies among younger species that the Council had ignored. The Human Stellar Federation was stronger than Earth had ever been under Council rule. They could afford to be generous. What do you propose? Send Admiral Morrison to investigate the affected systems. If we can understand this threat, maybe we can find a way to fight it. Jake Morrison had been promoted to Admiral after leading the successful evacuation from Council space. His knowledge of both human and alien technology made him the perfect choice for a reconnaissance mission. Morrison's fleet consisted of 12 ships equipped with the new Prometheus drive and shields based on Architect technology. His science team included Dr. Amy Ross and engineer Carl Hughes, both of whom had worked on humanity's most advanced projects. Their first stop was the Xerian system, where the plague had first appeared. What they found there defied everything Morrison thought he knew about space warfare. Sensors show massive energy disturbances, reported his science officer, but no physical objects. It's like something is eating space itself. Dr. Ross studied the readings from her workstation. The energy patterns match what Captain Stone found at Haven Prime. These are definitely the devourers the architects warned us about. Morrison made a decision that would have been impossible under Council authority. Take us closer. I want to see what we're really fighting. As they approached the edge of the consumed area, Morrison's ship detected something incredible. The void was not empty. It was full of mechanical entities so advanced that human sensors could barely perceive them. They moved through space like living shadows, converting matter and energy into more of themselves. They're beautiful, Dr. Ross whispered, and absolutely terrifying. Morrison activated his ship's new defensive systems. The shields Dr. Parker had developed using Architect technology created a bubble of altered space around the human vessel. The devourers seemed to notice them but could not penetrate the barrier. It's working, Carl Hughes reported. They can't adapt to our shields because the technology keeps changing. The Architect designs require constant innovation to function properly. Morrison tested his theory by deploying a probe equipped with traditional Council technology. The devourers consumed it instantly, analyzing its design and adding its capabilities to their own systems. But when he deployed a probe with human modifications, the mechanical entities studied it for several minutes before finally destroying it. They need time to understand our technology, Morrison realized. If we keep innovating faster than they can adapt, we can stay ahead of them. Meanwhile, Captain Rick Stone's exploration fleets made contact with dozens of species that the Council had never discovered. Many were primitive by galactic standards, but they possessed something that advanced civilizations had lost. They were still learning, still growing, still capable of genuine innovation. Stone began forming what he called the Free Alliance. Species that had never heard of the Galactic Council joined with humanity to face the devourer threat. They brought fresh perspectives and new ideas that even human scientists had not considered. The breakthrough came when Morrison's team successfully cleansed a small asteroid field that the devourers had partially consumed. Using continuously adapting shields and weapons that changed their operating principles every few seconds, human forces were able to drive back the mechanical entities. The success was broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time since the plague began, someone had fought the devourers and won. High Arbiter Veltar received the reports with a mixture of relief and humiliation. The species he had dismissed as irrelevant had accomplished what the Council's greatest minds could not. Humanity was proving that they belonged among the stars by saving the very civilization that had rejected them. Send another message to Admiral Cole, Veltar ordered. Offer her anything she wants in exchange for their help. But Cole's response was not what the Council expected. Instead of demanding tribute or territory, she proposed something that terrified the established powers of the galaxy. The Human Stellar Federation will share our anti-devourer technology with any species willing to join the Free Alliance. We will help evacuate threatened populations and establish new colonies beyond devourer reach. In exchange, the galaxy must accept a new order based on cooperation rather than control. The old system was ending. The Council's monopoly on power was broken. Species that had been ignored for millennia suddenly found their voices heard and their innovations valued. The galaxy was being remade by the very beings the Council had tried to silence. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship as they prepared to defend another threatened system. Around him, human and alien crew members worked together with an efficiency that would have amazed the old Council. These were beings who had chosen to stand together rather than submit to arbitrary authority. All ships report ready, Admiral, his communications officer announced. Morrison nodded. The war against the devourers was far from over, but humanity had proven something important. Innovation and adaptation could triumph over any threat, no matter how ancient or powerful. The galaxy was learning what it meant to be human, and the Council was discovering the price of calling irrelevant the one species that could save them all. High Arbiter Veltar stood in the half-empty council chamber and felt the weight of his failures. 6 of the 12 member species had fallen to the Void Plague. Their representatives' chairs sat empty, silent reminders of civilizations that had existed for millennia before being consumed in mere days. The remaining council members looked broken. The proud Altarian Empire had lost half its worlds. The collective's hive mind was fractured and weak. Even the ancient Chronari, beings of living stone who had thought themselves immortal, now faced extinction. A new ship appeared on the docking bay sensors. Unlike the desperate vessels that had fled here seeking refuge, this one moved with purpose and confidence. The HSF Sovereign, flagship of the Human Stellar Federation, requested permission to dock. Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the council chamber 3 years after being humiliated in this same room. But everything had changed. He wore the uniform of the Federation, not Earth. Behind him walked representatives from a dozen species that the Council had never bothered to contact. These were the members of the Free Alliance, the coalition that humanity had built in the darkness beyond galactic civilization. Dr. Lisa Carter carried the formal terms for ending the crisis. She had spent months negotiating with leaders from both the old Council and the new Alliance. The document she held would reshape the galaxy forever. The terms are simple, Carter announced. Humanity will share our anti-plague technology and coordinate the defense of threatened systems. In exchange, the old galactic order ends today. Veltar wanted to object, but he had no strength left for pride. His people were dying. Half the galaxy was already gone. Humanity offered the only hope for survival. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Nothing," Morrison replied. "We want you to join us. The Free Alliance is open to any species willing to work together as equals. No one rules over others. No one decides who belongs among the stars." The terms Carter presented were more generous than any council member had expected. Humanity would help evacuate populations from threatened worlds. They would establish new colonies in safe systems beyond devourer reach. They would share technology and knowledge freely with anyone who asked. But in return, the galaxy would be reorganized. The Council's control over hyperspace travel would end. Their restrictions on trade and exploration would be lifted. Most importantly, younger species would have equal voices in galactic governance. "This is madness," protested the hegemony representative. "Giving primitive species equal representation will lead to chaos. More chaos than half the galaxy being consumed by ancient machines?" Morrison asked. "Your way of doing things nearly led to the extinction of all life. Maybe it's time to try something different." Captain Rick Stone was already implementing the new order. His fleets, now openly flying Federation colors, had established jump gate networks that bypassed Council-controlled routes. Trade flowed along new pathways, enriching species that had been isolated for centuries. The transformation was remarkable. The artistic Melodians, previously ignored by the Council, contributed cultural innovations that inspired breakthrough technologies. The warrior Draknari provided security for exploration missions into dangerous regions. The analytical synthetics offered computational support that helped solve complex engineering problems. Dr. Ben Parker oversaw the deployment of anti-plague defenses across the galaxy. His teams worked alongside alien scientists, but the technology required human creativity to function properly. Each installation had to be customized and continuously adapted, ensuring that humanity remained essential to galactic survival. "The key is never stopping innovation," Parker explained to a mixed group of human and alien engineers. "The moment we become predictable, the devourers will adapt to counter us. We have to keep changing, keep growing, keep thinking of new solutions." The old Council struggled to accept their reduced status. Species that had commanded respect for millennia now found themselves as equals with civilizations they had previously dismissed. Some adapted to the new reality. Others retreated to their core worlds and refused to participate. President Maria Santos addressed the first meeting of the reformed Galactic Assembly from its new headquarters on Haven Prime. The ancient architect city had been rebuilt as a symbol of cooperation between old and new civilizations. Human engineers worked with architect energy shapers to create something beautiful and functional. "We gather not as rulers and subjects," Santos said, "but as partners in the greatest endeavor any of us has ever attempted. We will build a civilization that values innovation over tradition, cooperation over control, and growth over stagnation." The assembly hall was filled with beings who would never have met under the old system. Primitive species sat beside ancient civilizations. Humans worked with aliens who thought in ways no other species could understand. It should have been chaos, but somehow it worked. 6 months after the new accords were signed, the results spoke for themselves. The void plague had been stopped in 4 different sectors. Evacuation efforts had saved billions of lives. New colonies were being established at a rate that dwarfed anything the old council had achieved. High Arbiter Veltar found Admiral Morrison in the observation deck of Haven Prime Station. Below them, human and alien children played together while their parents worked on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. "We underestimated your species," Veltar admitted. "We saw your rapid expansion and assumed conquest. We feared your violence and missed your creativity. We were wrong about everything." Morrison watched a human child teaching an alien friend how to throw a ball. "You made the same mistake every established power makes. You confuse strength with wisdom and order with progress. And now we're all learning together. The galaxy is bigger and stranger than any of us imagined. There's room for everyone who's willing to help build something better." The transformation was not without problems. Some species struggled to adapt to the new freedoms. Pirates and raiders took advantage of the changing order to attack isolated systems. The devourers, while contained, remained a constant threat that required eternal vigilance. But the Free Alliance proved remarkably good at solving problems. When the Meridian system was attacked by raiders, a mixed fleet of human and alien vessels responded within hours. When the synthetics discovered a new type of devourer entity, scientists from 6 different species worked together to develop countermeasures. Captain Stone's exploration fleets pushed deeper into unexplored space, always accompanied by representatives from multiple species. They found wonders that no single civilization could have discovered alone. Ancient ruins left by species that had transcended physical existence. Living worlds that were actually vast organisms capable of thought. Technologies that operated on principles that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics. The old council had been content to manage what they controlled. The new alliance was determined to discover what lay beyond their reach. Dr. Carter stood in her office on Earth, now serving as the Federation's Secretary of Galactic Affairs. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of different worlds docked at the orbital stations. Humans and aliens worked side by side, building a future that neither could have imagined alone. A message from the frontier caught her attention. Admiral Morrison's fleet had made contact with something incredible. A species of living energy that existed in the space between galaxies. They called themselves the Eternals, and they had been watching the Milky Way for millions of years. The Eternals' message was simple but profound. "You have become worthy of attention. Your species shows promise. Perhaps you are ready to join the greater community that exists beyond your small galaxy." Carter smiled as she drafted a response. 3 years ago, humanity had been declared irrelevant by a handful of species that controlled a tiny portion of one galaxy. Now they were being invited to join civilizations that spanned the universe. The Council had made humanity irrelevant. Then they had discovered their mistake. But even they could not have imagined how completely wrong they had been. Humanity had not just proven their worth among the stars. They had become the bridge that would carry all life to heights beyond imagination. The age of the Council was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun, and it would be led by the species that never learned to accept limitations, never stopped asking questions, and never gave up on the dream of something better. In the end, that was what made humans truly irreplaceable, not their technology or their weapons or their colonies. Their absolute refusal to believe that anything was impossible if they worked together to make it real.